Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to prototype a very small bit of the Duolingo app. So if you're not familiar with Duolingo, it's an app which enables you to learn languages. So it teaches you languages like French, Spanish, and Italian. We're going to take a very small part of it. One of the kind of functionalities or features it uses to teach you is using multiple choice questions. So if you can imagine, you get presented with a number of objects, you get given the words in the language that you're learning associated with them, and it actually speaks the words to you, okay? Then you get to choose which one you think is the right answer, and you kind of click a button. So that's me trying to explain it to you. I can actually use my finished prototype, which will do a much better job of explaining it to you. So let's kind of hop over into ProtoPie and have a look at the finished thing. Okay, so here we are in my kind of finished ProtoPie solution. So I'm just going to open up the preview window. And we're just going to run this, and I'm going to explain this as I go along. Okay, so here we are. We're learning Italian here. We've got our first word. We've got three choices. This is a multiple choice question. So the question we're being asked is, which one of these is coffee? Which word represents coffee? We've got the word cafe, we've got the word cornetto, and we've got the word tè. Okay, we can go through and select which option we want. So I'm going to select cafe.
Caffè,
And you can hear it's actually speaking the word to me. I'm cycling through here, just kind of hearing all the words.
cornetto,
So cornetto,
tè,
tè. So I've got three options here, cafe, cornetto, or tè. I'm going to choose one. I'm going to choose cornetto.
cornetto,
I'm going to hit check. Okay, so you can see a couple of things have happened. I got an obvious wrong sound. I've also got this horrible red pop-up, and it's actually telling me that the correct solution was cafe. And I don't know if you noticed, but I started off with this heart icon having 5 items in it, and now it's only got 4. So this heart icon is kind of like lives, like you'd have in a game. I got the answer wrong, so I've lost a life. Okay, let's just restart the prototype so we can see what a correct answer looks like. So kind of know, obviously, what the word is now, cafe. So let's choose that.
caffè,
Okay, so it speaks the word to me. Let me hit check. Great, so now I've got a nice, happy green pop-up. You can see that all my lives are intact, and actually this progress bar has just moved along a little bit. So I'm basically making progress. This encapsulates all of the features that we're going to build in this prototype. We're going to be using ProtoPie's voice capability. So ProtoPie has the ability to use the Google Voice API, so we can choose any language. We're actually going to be choosing Italian just for the sake of this prototype, as you can see. But you could actually take this and just kind of like do it with any language. We're also going to look at how we can use variables to control the lives aspects. So when you get it right and wrong, we're going to use conditional logic to obviously define right and wrong as well. And we're also going to use a bit of logic to make this progress bar go up. So if that sounds like some cool features that you'd like to learn, then stick with me and we'll get into it. Okay, so we're going to start building our prototype. Just a quick thing. If you're watching this video on YouTube, then you're not going to be able to get hold of the actual file I'm using. If you do want to get the actual file and follow along, you can sign up to my Patreon channel. It's only, well, in the UK, it's £10 a month, but obviously it will be translated into whatever currency in the country you're in. But that's where you're going to get a lot of other content, as well as the actual ProtoPie files as well. If you just watch it on YouTube, then obviously you can kind of create your own file. You can still kind of follow along and kind of learn the functionality. And actually, it's really good to kind of go off and create it on your own anyway. It's a really great way to learn. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get into the prototype. Okay, so let me just kind of show you around. So we've got our graphics all in here. So we've got 2 audio files. We've got a wrong sound and a correct sound. In ProtoPie, these sound files, they have a visual representation here, as you can see, but you don't need to have them inside of the canvas. They can just kind of sit off of the canvas. As long as they're in the scene, you're going to have access to them, okay? So they're effectively invisible because they're audio, right? Can't see audio. Okay, so so that's there. We've then got our progress bar. That's quite basic. It's basically a group with another group in it, and I've just added a fill, and I've just added some rounded corners. So it's all completely created in ProtoPie. All these things, apart from the icons, were created in ProtoPie. Then what else have we got here? We've got the actual buttons themselves. So again, they're just basically groups with some text and basically some graphics from Noun projects. Okay, so they're kind of all in there. And what else have we got? We've got our button down here, which is covered by this disabled layer. So we don't want the user who's using the prototype to be able to press the button until he or she's actually selected something. So we've got this kind of semi-transparent layer, which is kind of blocking, which is going to be blocking the tap trigger. And then underneath here, we've got our little pop-ups. We've got a wrong pop-up. If I hide it, you can see we've got our correct pop-up underneath. So we're just going to have these as two separate things. Okay, we've also got our heart icon. So that's pretty static. We've got this basically text layer. So we've got a ProtoPie text layer here. So we're going to be manipulating that text layer with a bit of ProtoPie logic as well. Okay, so that's kind of the setup. So let's start building some of the functionality. So the first thing we're going to do is create the button. Okay, so we're going to create one of the buttons, and then we're going to put all the functionality in, and then we're going to duplicate them. So let's kind of get on with the first button. So I'm going to just select the cafe button. I'm going to add a tap trigger. And you just want to make sure you've obviously got the cafe layer selected. Because I selected it up front, it was already selected in my trigger. Okay. So next thing I want to do is I want to add a border response. So if you remember, when you selected it, it just kind of put a thick black border around the object. So I'm going to add a border response. And I'm going to make this border 4 pixels wide. Now, this has already got a border on it, I believe. Let me just check. Yeah, it's got a black border already set, and it's already got a fill of 100%. So we don't need to define the border color or the fill here because it's already pre-selected on the layer. Okay, so I just need to change the width there. Okay, I'm going to remove the duration completely. I'm just going to set that to 0 so we don't have any animation. Of course, if you want to put an animation on it, you can, but I don't want an animation. I want it to kind of happen immediately. And we're going to actually duplicate this border response 2 more times. So these, because we basically we don't know what button the user is going to tap first. So we basically need to make sure that all the borders are deselected and only the border we want selected is going to be selected. Okay, so we need to kind of do border for all 3. But in these other two, we're going to make the border 0. So we're going to make sure. And if it's 0, making it 0 when it's already 0 won't obviously make any difference, but it will still do it. But if it's already been pre-selected, it's going to take the border away. Okay, so that's how we get that really easy way of just kind of getting that kind of radio button kind of style functionality, which is effectively what we got here. We've got basically a very graphic radio button. Okay, so what else am I going to do? So we're going to set the border. We've done the border 0 on those. We're now going to add an opacity response. And we're going to target this disabled layer. Remember this disabled layer, which is kind of covering the button. It's actually got a white fill with 50%, which is making the green look kind of a little bit knocked back. So we want to hide that disabled layer because as soon as we've tapped side, we've selected an answer and we want to give the user the ability to be able to check their answer. So we're going to set the opacity to 100. And again, I'm going to take the duration off of that. Okay. Okay, so let's kind of test that, see where we're at. So I'm just going to set this cafe button, and you can see nothing's happening, which is very curious. Let me just go back and check. So we didn't change the target on the other 2 borders. Okay, obviously we need to target the other 2 buttons. So let me just go and choose these respectively. So the cornetto button. Love it when things go wrong, but it's all part of it. Could cut this out, but let's kind of do it live as it happens, and you can see all the mistakes I'm making. So what's the other button's called? T. There we go. Okay, let's test that. Now it's working. Cool. Okay, So that's looking good. Let's kind of move on to the next bit. And the next bit we want to do is we want to get ProtoPie to speak Italian. Okay, so that's remarkably easy. So let's kind of go through that. So I'm going to come into my tap trigger. I'm going to add a speak response. Okay, I'm going to add this speak response. And I'm going to type in the word I want it to say. Now, I need to, if you're using languages, you need to put the accents in to allow the API to actually pronounce it correctly. So we need to make sure that we type the word cafe in correctly. So let me just check my cheat sheet. So how to do the correct Italian character is going to be holding down the Option key, and you want the kind of the backslash accent. And that's kind of, for my keyboard at least, it's next to the Z key or the Z key. So I'm going to press Option and that, and then I'm going to press the E. Okay, and then I get the right character on the back. Okay, so that's my Italian word. Okay, I'm going to now choose the Italian language. So you can see here, we've got a whole load of languages we could play around with, but we're going to use Italian today. Italian from Italy, as opposed to Italian from somewhere else. There you go. Italian from Italy. That's the language we want. And we also have the option to have it spoken by a female voice or a male voice. So I'm going to leave it at female voice as I had in the prototype. You can change that. You can also actually change the speed that it kind of talks. So you can have some real fun speeding it up. And you can also change the pitch. So if it's a deep voice or it's a high voice, you can change that as well. So there you go. Okay, so that's our speak response kind of all set up. Let me just go and try that, see if that's working.
Caffè.
There you go. In fact, let's just kind of see what a male voice might sound like.
Caffè.
Caffè. Lovely. We could speed it up. I have no idea what this does. Okay, you can go to double speed. Okay, we can't go like super speed. How's that sound?
Caffè.
Oh, very fast. Yeah, that's no good. Wouldn't be able to learn the language if it was going that fast. And let's change the pitch. Let's go to... Okay, so again, you can just double the pitch. Okay, if you're creating a comedy app, then might be the route you want to go there. But I think we'll set the pitch back to 1. Okay, moving on. Okay, next we want to assess if the guess is actually correct or not. Okay, so how we're going to do that? We're going to use variables. So we're going to come down to the variables panel, and we're going to create a variable for this scene. We're going to call this guess, unsurprisingly, and we want to make sure it's a text variable. Okay, otherwise we won't be able to write the text to it. Okay, so next we need to come back to our tap trigger, and we need to add an assign response. So assign responses are, an assign response is the response that allows you to assign a value to a variable. Okay, so we want to choose our variable guess that we just created, and then we want to put a wee small formula in here, and it's actually basically just going to be the word cafe. So we can come back and we can copy this. So I don't have to do the accent again. And we need to put it in double quotes because it's a formula, and text in a formula needs to be in double quotes. Okay, now we've got our first question created and all the responses that we need in it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to duplicate this tap response for the other two. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, and we could actually even name this. We could say this is tap cafe, tap cornetto. I apologize for any Italian people watching this, my really bad pronunciation, but I am learning. I am trying. Tap te. Okay, so let's go into this tap trigger, and we're going to change the layer to the te layer. Sorry, the cornetto layer. And this one we're going to change to the te layer. Okay, and we need to make some other changes. So the border we actually want to be selected is the cornetto one. So for cafe, we want to turn that down to 0. And for the cornetto, we want it up to 4. We will leave the opacity as it is because it's the same disabled layer. And obviously we want to change the word here. So we're going to type cornetto. No accents there. And okay, we'll leave it as the male language, the male voice. That's fine. That's what we want to do there. And we want to assign the word cornetto to the variable. To the variable. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we got that. So that's that one done. Let's come over to our third tap trigger to make sure we got the right, yeah. Third tap trigger, we need to again change the borders. So we don't want cornetto selected. Sorry, cafe selected. We don't want cornetto selected. We want te selected. Opacity stays the same. Speak needs to be te, where we need to do the accent. There you go. And we can copy that. And we can put it in between the quotes. Okay. That looks good. Let's just test that, make sure everything's working. So we've got
caffè,
we have
cornetto,
and we have
te.
Okay, so we've got our multiple choice questions working. Now let's just test that we've actually assigned to the variable. So with variables, you can turn this little bug icon on just to the right of your variable, and you're going to get this little green box. Let's just kind of put that here. You can actually drag it around in design mode. Let's go into preview again. Just make sure that our guess is actually being written to the variable. So we can hit caffè. So you can see that the word is correctly being added to the variable.
Cornetto. Te.
Cool. So that's all working as expected. That's cool. So we can turn that variable off. Okay, so the final bit we need to do is actually the bit which actually checks whether the guess is actually correct or not. And the way we're going to instigate that particular bit of functionality is when we tap that check button. Okay, so that's that button that's sitting underneath that disabled layer. Okay, and it's actually called, let me just check that, that's called button check. So button check in the layer here. Okay, so we're going to add a tap trigger. We're going to target button check. And inside, we're going to add a condition. And we're going to check the guess variable. Remember, that's where we're writing our guess to. Guess variable. And we're going to leave the equality operator at equals. And we're going to first see if the guess equals cafe. Okay, so remember, cafe is the right answer. So let's go back and grab our word. So guess equals cafe. Next, we're going to, so this is the correct kind of conditional block we're creating here. So if it's correct, we're going to add a move response, and we're going to target the correct pop-up. So what's that called? That's called correct. And we're going to move the Y position to 696. Right, for the ease in, I'm going to choose a kind of spring, kind of nice bouncy, because it's Duolingo is quite a fun app, so we want to make the motion a bit fun. So it's going to choose a spring easing curve there. And we're going to leave the tension at 300 and the friction at 15. So we're going to leave it at the defaults. That's fine. Okay, next I'm going to add a playback response. So we want to play remember we've got these audio files. So we want to play the correct audio file. So we're going to choose playback. And we're going to choose correct. And finally, I'm going to add a scale response, because we need to move on our progress, increase the kind of size of our progress bar, that progressy stuff. So let's find, we want actually the fill. So we want the progress fill there, that layer. Let's just search for that, progress fill. And we're going to set the width to random 40. You can set it to whatever you wish. And I'm actually going to, as you can see, I don't know if you can see here, just make it bigger. You can see that the progress fill has got like a flat line. I want to make it like a curved line. So I'm going to just add a radius response. Target progress fill. This is completely optional. And I'm going to set the individual corners to, actually I'm going to select the individual corners, so this little button here, and just in the right hand ones I'm going to type in the value 41. There you go. Okay, so that's looking good. So we're going to tap button check, and the condition is going to say, well, if the value in the guess variable is equal to cafe, we're going to move the correct bottom sheet into position. So that's going to move up from the bottom. We're going to play the correct sound. We're going to scale the progress fill. And we're also going to add those rounded corners on it as well. So should be able to check that. Let's see if that's working. If we type cafe.
Caffè.
Right, we can see that something's gone wrong here. We're not losing our disabled layer. Let's just go back and check that. We forgot to turn it down to 0. Let's do that. Try that again.
Caffè.
Amazing. There you go, it works. Let me just do that. I'll do that really quickly.
Caffè.
There you go. Looking like it's working. Okay, so that's one side of the conditional. We need to do the wrong side. So we're going to add another condition. And we're going to select the guess variable again. Pretty much going to copy this kind of thing. So guess variable, so we can actually get that word again. And we're going to type and paste that in there. So we're going to change the operator, the equality operator. We're going to look for if the guess does not equal cafe. So it's a really easy way of having what's called a binary choice when there's more than one other option. Obviously, it could be cornetto, it could be te, but we don't want to say if it's cornetto, it's wrong. If it's te, it's wrong. We don't want to do that. We can be more efficient by just saying if it's not cafe, and we know there's only one right answer, then it must be wrong. Okay, so that's kind of the logic thought there. Okay, so if it's wrong, we're going to add a move response. This time we're going to find the wrong bottom sheet, and we're going to move that into a position 660, apparently. Is the position we're going to move it into. And we're also going to add that spring easing curve, because that's quite cool. I mean, you could play around with that, make it a bit less happy, I guess, because it's wrong. I mean, springy is quite happy, but you got it wrong. Don't know if that's like kind of the right message to be sending, but we're going to leave it at that for this. And we're going to add a playback response. So we want to play our wrong audio sound. Okay, that's looking good. And we want to basically decrement the number in our lives. We want to lose a life. Okay, so we're going to add a text response. And we're going to find our lives text layer. So there it is. And we're just going to type 4. We could get all fancy and use variables, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to type the number that it's going to be, which is going to be 4. Remember that with this particular prototype, we only get one chance at getting the question right or wrong. So we don't really kind of have to over-engineer it and start doing counters and things. Okay. So always when you're prototyping, try and think of the easiest way to get to what you need to do, what's going to take you the least amount of time. Okay, so remember, you're not building an app, you're just testing a particular piece of functionality. Okay, so we're going to leave that at 4, and we're actually going to add a color response here, and we're going to find the button check layer. Not called that. What's it called? Oh, BTN check. And we actually could change the fill to a red color. If you remember it's a green button initially. So we don't want a green button on the red background. So I'm using a color C5040. Okay, kind of a red color there. Okay, give that a test. So we're going to choose an obviously wrong answer.
cornetto,
And we can also see that we forgot to do the disably thing. In all the others, of course we did, because that's what happens. Let's just turn the opacities down on the other two. Do. Okay, let's try that again. Cornetto.
cornetto,
Cornetto. Okay. And we'll check if that's right or not. Okay, so it's obviously wrong. Our button has turned red. Our wrong bottom sheet has popped up. And we've lost a life. Just a bit sad, really. But there you go. And it's also told us, and this is very much a Duolingo thing, what the correct solution was. We don't get a chance of answering that question again. Okay, so there you go. We now have a finished prototype of a very small piece of the Duolingo app, but hopefully you can see how fun it is to play around with the voice capability that ProtoPie has got. And I think I might have a go in the next video of doing one of the other mechanics that Duolingo uses when they're teaching you language. And it's kind of the reverse of this. So instead of it speaking to me and me choosing the option, it gives me the word and I have to pronounce it. I have to pronounce it back and it will check to see whether it's right or not. I've never done that before. I'm going to have a go, see if that works. And if you're interested to see how I get on, then why don't you subscribe to the channel? And as I said previously at the beginning of this video, if you do want the actual files, then you'll need to subscribe to my Patreon channel. But it's only £10 a month and you get all the videos I've ever done. You get all of the training courses I've ever done on Udemy. So there's quite a lot there now. So it's well worth a tenner. I mean, that's like 3 coffees or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I was in a pub the other day and I was paying like over seven quid for a pint. So it's almost just a little bit more than a pint. So yeah, might be worth it, drink 1 pint less a month and then subscribe. Okay. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'll give you back some of your time. And hopefully I'll see you for the next video. Take it easy.